What's going on? It's been a while, 2 years. We're out here in, what is this? Not Apple Valley, right? Apple Valley, Hesperia, Horseman Center.
That's it.
At the Doings. Check it out. It's still early and there's going to be a lot more people here. This is going to be awesome. All right, stay tuned. The more later it gets, the more I start slurring. It's a little windy.
Are you gonna put up the flag?
78 degrees. We will be putting the flag up. Get the chairs out. Ice chest, firewood. Bag will stay in the back seat of the cab. Heck yeah. It's a little bit windy. The wind's gonna go down. It's gonna be a really nice weekend. 78 degrees. Usually we come up here and it's close to 100. It's nice. A little rain this morning. Ended up not having to work. Got to leave early instead of coming here at night. This is awesome. Heck yeah. Look at my PVC.
It's not gonna happen.
He brought me this. I gotta say thank you. He still might not make it.
What?
Two more do.
That's fucking really good.
Smooth, isn't it?
What's going on? It is 5:58. I have to go check in my PVC at 6:01 unofficial time. So I'm gonna get over there. Rain Man's doing me solid so far. Here we are. The sun is starting to come up. Rise and shine. People are waking up, getting out of bed, putting their boots on, lacing up. Some people had some rough nights. Yeah. Weather's nice. The sun just came out a little while ago. We've had breakfast. It's great. Yeah, here's the non-essential side to the right. The essential side is on the left. Down in there somewhere, I promise. Yeah, non-essential to the right. What's going on? It's nice time. Great weather. We're having a good old time. Awesome. Here's what's for lunch. Hamburgers, hot dogs.
1 and 1 or 2 and 2?
Potato salad, macaroni salad. All the fixins. This is the trailer that has all the stuff for the cooking. Here is my food, my lunch. Look at that, double cheeseburger, hot dog, and potato salad, and 2 bags of chips, and having a beer. Yeah.
All right, so last night at 1:30 a.m. I was walking to my tent. I had to walk past Jason's truck. I didn't know he was sleeping in the bed of his truck, and this guy was snoring like a friggin' mountain lion. Startled the heck out of me. I mean, that's pretty much the story. Like,
When you walked by, what happened?
oh, I jumped.
He thought a wild animal was trying to get him. Just me snoring. Awesome. Here we are, it's dinner time. All the fixins, rolls, salad, corn, mushrooms, steak, chili. Oh yeah, we're doing it.
New York steaks, man. What do you mean? You got the big dog.
Hey, dude, everything's big when you hang out with this dude.
Look at the dinner line. Yeah, the dinner line. It just keeps going. That's what he said. It's down and around the corner. Yeah. So here's the dinner. Corn, little pieces of cheese, biscuits, some butter, mushrooms on the ribeye steak New York strip, sorry. And we have some chili, cheese in there, The cheese will be on the side too. And then we have this salad with ranch. And we got this vanilla ice cream cone. I'm gonna eat that first so it doesn't melt. What do you got there, Jack?
Pretty much the same thing, man. I got some corn, salad.
Yeah, doing it, huh?
Bomb steak.
Yep.
Oh,
Time to eat. We gotta go. At least I remembered. All right, we have a situation here where we have a 10-year-old young little boy that is going through it, and we have a GoFundMe if you could help support it. Here it is. Here's the info. Help him out. His name is CJ.
Keep as much love.
Tell a little bit about CJ and what's going on.
So CJ Del Fosse is going through his third bout of cancer. He had the first go through, it worked, then he relapsed. The second go through worked, relapsed. Third go through, and he developed a rash. And his doctor said basically you take him home, make him comfortable. But his parents didn't give up. They found him a new doctor. He's going through his probably fourth, I guess now, round of treatment. And yeah, it's a long name. But
Leukemia type shit? Or?
it's a very rare form of lung cancer. But right now he's doing good.
TPM?
He just needs a little fucking moral support. So
Yeah.
support him.
So we're here to support. Check him out and GoFundMe and
man.
throw a buck or two, help out the cause. And CJ, I do hope you get better, buddy. We're rooting for you, man. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I don't know what I would do. My daughter was going through that. Stay strong. Check out this building over here. I'll get a shot of this thing in the morning. It's nighttime right now, but yeah, it's lit up red, white, and blue. Love it. It's getting dark, so I don't know how much more I could actually show because it's, you know, dark. Here we go. We're getting it going. There's the fire. It's a lot bigger in person. That's what he said. Sunday morning. Oh, it's a rough morning. We're getting up. Some are standing. Some are not. Some are still sleeping. This was an awesome trip. It's not over. This is just morning. We're breaking down. One guy's leaving right now. One of our buddies. He's got to go to San Diego. Poor guy. But yeah, here we go. Would you sell me that red shirt you're wearing for 50 bucks right now?
Hell no.
All right. Did you have fun, and are you coming back?
It was grueling and exhausting. It was all worth it.
Heck yeah. You coming back?
For sure.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. He made it.
Yeah.
Barely.
A regular guy, a bit on the poor side in Ohio. It's kind of cool because, as you'll read in the history, and I'm not going to go through the entire history, because you can, well, most of you can read it yourselves. Those of you clampers who can't, get somebody to read it for you. His father had built essentially a houseboat, and they lived on the houseboat for several years, and then decided to move the houseboat onto dry land. And as it was, when it was time to move along, they were right on the Ohio River. The Ohio River flooded and carried them, the houseboat, and the chickens down a little bit farther down the way. When they finally made landfall, they were just in a tiny little community called Duck Run in Ohio, and Roy's father, Andy, had to work in a shoe factory to make ends meet. Roy Rogers' real name was not Roy Rogers. You'd be very fascinated to find out. His actual name was Leonard Sly. Now, the note on the spelling here, in most of the literature that I came across, the last name was S-L-Y-E. And when we had finalized the history, and I sent it to Pirates emailed back and said, no, Roy Jr. said that's not how they spell the name. Remember, we had that discussion? That he spells it S-L-Y. So we went back, since it seemed to be Roy Jr.'s wish that we spell it S-L-Y. We did it that way. So we went with that throughout the book, and I believe on the plaque here as well. So Leonard, who would later become Roy Rogers, took up the life of a farmer at the ripe old age of about 6 or 7 years old, because his father had to work in town in the shoe factory, and the family had a small farm there at Duck Run, and he became essentially the man of the house. And he said later on that when you have to learn something to survive, you learn it really fast. He learned how to farm, he learned how to plant, he learned how to harvest, he learned how to run a mule team, how to milk cows, how to run the pigs, and all that sort of thing from a young age. One of the things he also learned to do, though, as he got a bit older, was to play the guitar and to play the mandolin and to call square dances and to yodel as well. And as he got a bit older, things, it was the Depressions, the 1930s, so things were pretty rough. They ended up, they moved from the farm back to town again, and then what eventually happened was it was getting so hard on his dad, Andy, that Roy one morning said he saw his dad was in terrible pain from what we would call today a migraine headache. He says, I've got about $90 saved up. I think you've got about $100. My sister Mary's in California now. Let's go out there. Let's just put our money together and we'll head out to California. The land of milk and honey. And of course it's the Depression, so they're going to be joining all the others coming from the east to California looking for a better life. Mary, his sister, had moved to Lawndale with her husband, and this I also found fascinating because I lived for many years in Torrance, just down the street from Lawndale. I had no idea that this even came into the story. And when Roy and his father, I'm going to use Roy instead of from here on out, just so I'm not using two names. When Roy and his father got there, Roy's brother-in-law had arranged to work for them to haul gravel so driving trucks hauling gravel. So they got a bit of money. It was hard work. It was dusty, dirty work, but it was work. And in the Depression, if you had to work, you were way ahead of the game. So they were doing fairly well. Although one day they drove up to the gates of the gravel plant, and lo and behold, the gates were locked, and the gravel company had gone out of business. So now they're out of work. They ended up going up into the Central Valley, picking peaches and whatever else could be picked up there. They did the best they could. If you want a reference to that period of time, just watch The Grapes of Wrath and you'd get an idea of that. In fact, in his autobiography, Roy mentions that he's pretty sure he saw a guy named John Steinbeck touring around in the various camps that he was in, although they never met. And of course, Steinbeck went on to write The Grapes of Wrath. So eventually, though, the summer wore on and fall came and the picking came to an end. And now what are you going to do? Well, they headed back down to Lawndale. Andy, that's Roy's father, decided to head back to Ohio. Roy wanted to stay, but being the good son he was, he went back with his parents back to Ohio. He vowed, however, that he would come back to California, and he did. It wasn't long before his sister's husband's father wanted to come back out to California. Roy volunteered to be his assistant driver, and they drove on back. Eventually, Roy's father and mother came back to California as well and made California their permanent home. Well, things started off slow in terms of Roy's musical career. His sister Mary had found out about a radio show that you could just walk on and give a performance and see what would happen. And she encouraged him, this was a station out of Inglewood, and she encouraged him to try out and see what happens. He was so nervous, you got to understand, you'll see this in the history, Roy was incredibly shy. He would freeze up in front of an audience. And so when he stepped up to the microphone, he froze, and he almost got pulled off the stage. Fortunately, his sister came up, put her hand on his shoulder and says, "You go ahead now and sing." And he did. And he said later that he has no idea what he sang, but he must have sang it pretty well, because the next day he got a call to join a group called the Hollywood Cowboys, something like that. Now, they didn't pay. They said, "You can join up, but we don't have any money to pay you, but it'll be good experience for you." And really, I guess that's what he needed. So all they did basically was they were able to use the radio as a method of advertising. Now, eventually, we kind of shorten this up a bit, what eventually occurred is that Roy joined a number of other different bands, musical groups. There's Johnny Cash is on the phone right now. My apologies. He says hello. And I joined a couple of other bands, and finally, there's a couple of things that happened. First, on one of those bands, he was encouraged with the band to tour the West. Now, the tour of the West is pretty funny, and you'll read about that in the history. But what eventually happened is that the group ended up in Roswell, New Mexico. They were so hungry that Roy had to borrow a rifle and shoot some rabbits for the group to have something to eat. Eventually, it got so bad they were shooting ravens. One evening, while we were at the radio station in Roswell, they had the idea. They said, "Hey, maybe if we take requests, somebody will bring us some food." And so they got a phone request for some good yodeling. Roy did the yodeling, and the next evening, a lady pulled up in her car, had a couple of big, nice lemon pies, and her name was Mrs. Wilkins. Mrs. Wilkins not only brought the lemon pies, she brought her daughter Arlene. And that, of course, caught Roy's eyes. Eventually, the two kept in contact for a couple of years as Roy went back here to Los Angeles. She stayed in Roswell. But as he started to do better and better in his musical career, he was able to pass through Roswell, and he married her right in the front room of Arlene's mother's house. So the two became married. Suffice it to say, he became a member of the group, one of the founding members of the Sons of the Pioneers, who many of you have heard of. He and Arlene started to do better and better as she moved with him here to Los Angeles. They had a couple of children. Unfortunately, however, one of their children, when Roy Jr. was born, everything looked really good. Roy thought he was just in the ascent at the top, almost moving toward the top of an excellent career. And then just a couple of days after Roy Jr. was born, he got a phone call from the doctors saying, "Hey, you better get down to the hospital right now. Your wife is hemorrhaging, and we don't know how long she's going to last." So he got down there as quick as she could, and there was nothing they could do. This is, the early 1940s. They didn't have the technology to cure her, and he held her hand as she passed away. He was just stricken, as you can imagine. So now he's got two daughters and a young infant child that he's got to care for. Well, he went on, and he was a tough guy. Those folks from the Greatest Generation really were. And eventually, we'll get to Dale Evans here in a moment, but eventually his musical career was picking up. He was appearing in some movies with the Sons of the Pioneers, and eventually also got some bit parts. In 1938, there was his big break. You all, of course, know who Gene Autry was. He was one of the original singing Cowboys, and his contract with Republic Pictures was coming up, and he wanted more money. And the studio executive said, "We're not going to give it to you." So he was kind of holding out for more money. In the meantime, the studio executives are saying, "Let's just see if we can find another singing cowboy, and we'll pay him less than Gene Autry's getting, and we'll do all right." And so, long and the short of it is Roy was able to audition for a part. You can read, it's a funny story about he did it. How it happened. You can read it in the history. And he got the part. His first major role in a film was Under Western Stars. And when I got done writing the history a couple of weeks ago, I went onto Amazon and I found that movie and I watched it. And they're great for clampers, these movies, because they're only about 58 minutes long. So even we can pay attention to them. Anyway, it's a really excellent movie. It's the first Roy Rogers movie I ever saw. And I thought I was really impressed. And you can tell because, clampers here, we've been up to Lone Pine in the Alabama Hills. You can really see where it was filmed in the Alabama Hills. And great movie, lots of cowboys singing, and, the good guy wins and gets the girl, and the bad guy's got egg all over his face. There's lots of shooting, but nobody really gets killed. It's an excellent movie. Anyway, we'll start wrapping this up here. His film career advanced through the 1940s. One of the people with whom he starred in a film was Dale Evans, and they got to be, after Arlene passed away, they made contact with each other again, and one day they were in Chicago at a rodeo, and he's sitting in the chute on his horse. Dale's sitting on her horse, and he looks over to Dale. I think I'm getting this right. And he says, "What are you doing on New Year's Eve?" And this was like in October and November. And she says, "I don't know. I didn't plan that far ahead." He says, "Well, how about we get married?" And then all of a sudden, the bell rings and the horses shoot out into the arena. And now everybody's cheering, the band's going, and he doesn't have an answer. And she looks over it during all the noise, and she just mouths, "Yes." And so on New Year's Eve, they were married. And of course, you can read through the children that they had between them and the children that they adopted. All in all, they had 9 children, and I'll read them off. Tom, Cheryl, Dusty, who's Roy Jr., Dodie, is that right? Debbie, Sandy, whose real name was John, he was adopted, Linda, Mimi, and Robin. Now, there's tragedy too here. There's success and there's tragedy. And the first tragedy occurred when their little daughter, Robin, was born with what today we would call Down syndrome. And the doctors had said, "Hey, you should just let us take this child away and put her in an institution." And both Roy and Dale said, "No, that's not going to happen. We're going to take her home. We're going to take care of her as best we can." And it was, Roy said, the best thing they ever did. She brought a light into that family that couldn't have been brought in. Just caring for that little child, and the older children caring for her too, really brought the family together. Unfortunately, just shy of her second birthday, little Robin passed away. That was, of course, a big heartbreaker, not only obviously for Roy, but especially for Dale. They would lose 2 other children as well. Little Debbie, who was also adopted as a teenager, she went on a bus trip down to Mexico to help to do a church trip. And while in the bus, she was standing in the bus, and apparently the bus driver got cut off, had to slam on the brakes, and she ended up being killed in the bus accident. And then finally,
Battery's dying.
I wore out that one. I guess that means I better speed it up, huh? Eventually, and then finally, young John, who they nicknamed Sandy, who was also adopted, he joined the Army, and in, I believe it was 1965, was in Germany, and literally died in his sleep for various reasons. Well, I guess this means we should cut it short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention one last thing, and then I'm going to give you Roy Rogers' prayer. Yes, he's very thoughtful. I'm going to have to read this one straight from the history because I didn't memorize it. So Roy started, for all those little buckaroos out there, he started the Roy Rogers Riders Club. Any kid can join. You didn't have to pay, and what you did was you sent in your name and your address to Roy. He would send you back a Rogersgram by Trigger Express, and you got your membership card, and you had the club's rules, which I think I'm going to post in my high school classroom because they're really good. 1, be neat and clean. 2, be courteous and polite. 3, always obey your parents. 4, protect the weak and help them. 5, be brave but never take chances. 6, study hard and learn all you can. 7, be kind to animals and take care of them. 8, eat all of your food and never waste any. 9, love God and go to Sunday school regularly. 10, always respect our flag and our country. Words to live by, no matter one's age.
Yeah.
Especially today. So I encourage you to read the history and get home and look at Netflix or Amazon and see some of these movies and the TV shows he did. And so I will close with this prayer, which was supposed to be recited at the beginning of every Riders Club meeting. And if you want to doff your hats, you certainly may. And we'll also, while we're saying this, we'll keep in mind all the brothers whose names we read last night at the Hall of Comparative Ovations. There was 40 or 41 people, plus the folks that are in this monument. We've got a bit of Roy Chaka is in there, and the Princess of Billy Holcomb, Michelle Gall, and Scott Wall's dad, and a few of our other brothers. Grizzly the dog is in there. George Bowlby is in there, of course. I couldn't forget him. Who else? Gary Wooten. Ricky Elliott. Okay. And here here's our prayer, and then I'll hand it over to Pirate. Does that sound good? Okay. Oh, yeah, thanks. Lord, I reckon I'm not much just by myself. I failed to do a lot of things I ought to do. But Lord, when trails are steep and passes high, help me ride it straight the whole way through. And when in the falling dusk I get that final call, I do not care how many flowers they send. Above all else, the happiest trail would be for you to say to me, let's ride, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Mark. It's a quick, simple question. You're going to laugh.
Okay.
For the Ancient Honorable Order of E. Clampus Vitus, what would you put the value of it at?
I give no value on anything, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not sure what this building is. They didn't really talk about it, but it's pretty cool. It was the one with the red, white, and blue lights on it at night. So I just wanted to come up here and get a quick little video on it. All right, guys. I think we're going to go eat In-N-Out. We're all ready to head out. We had to stop and get some food. We missed breakfast. We're here at In-N-Out. I have a double. And peppers and pickles. Grilled onions. Mike's having two over here. Gotta go. All right, that's it. We are packed up. We are at In-N-Out. We were in, we're out. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, click the bell, all that good stuff. Later.
Factory.
Yeah.